Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. For today I will be using for my Scribble the one and only MontBlanc fountain pen that I have in my collection. Well, maybe not the only one per se, but the only model that I have. I actually have 3 versions of this model, and the only reason I have a MontBlanc in my collection is that I managed to find it for a very decent price. The 320 comes in a few variations as far as I remember. I don't know which one was first or last, but personally I managed to get all 3 that I have in the same configuration or version. Long story short, some years ago I bought from eBay Japan what was advertised as a mint MontBlanc 320 fountain pen, serviced for a pretty penny, I would say. I decided that if I get one MontBlanc, I might as well get something that I know for sure it's in good condition. However, that didn't turn out to be true. It was anything but mint. It came with a broken window, cracked section, and a leaky feed. I sent it back and decided to buy a used one in need of service and try and basically try my luck and see if I can fix it. As luck had it, I managed to actually score 3 of them for almost 40 Canadian dollars each, and managed to save 2 of them by donating some parts from the third one. Fortunately, the third one had the parts for the other 2 that were missing. And eventually I also saved the third one by managing to 3D print parts for it, which was actually a fun experiment, and back then I made some videos about it as well, which they can be found on my channel if anyone is interested. Bottom line, the fountain pen, it's very simple in its function. It is a piston filler, and to my surprise, when I originally got it, it is very similar in construction with the Lamy 2000 fountain pen. I don't know who copied who in their design. I believe they both both model, the 2000 and the 320, were kind of introduced around the same time. If I remember correctly, mid-late 1960s, but I could be wrong. If anybody knows better, please do correct me. The design, however, works very well for me. I like them both. Probably that's one of the reasons why I actually end up getting this version of MontBlanc. It's easy to disassemble and maintain without any tools. Wish they would still build them the same. Main difference between them, the 2000 and 320, is the section, the nib, and how the nib is connected to the section. Speaking of the nib, it is a 14K nib that, depending on how it was being taken care of, can be quite a pleasant writer. Unfortunately, these fountain pens are not built anymore and they can only be found on the used market. As such, it could be a little bit of an adventure, like I had, in getting a good copy from an actual honest seller. So, buyer beware, basically. Anyway, let me ink it up and see what this puppy can do. Since I am using a MontBlanc, I decided to might as well use a MontBlanc ink. I don't have a lot of them, mainly 2, and I don't use them that often, so today seemed like a perfect day to use them. And for today I will be using the MontBlanc Red Burgundy, an ink that I actually like and enjoyed. I believe I have used it in one of my previous videos for a Scribble, and I remember being quite pleasant for drawing. All the nibs that I have on the 320 versions are decent and write with a very fine line, actually more like a Japanese extra fine. And since I bought them all from Japan, I wonder if this model was made more specifically for Japan market, or at least the nibs that are on them were designed more for the Japan market. I don't know, I'm assuming, I can definitely be wrong. No issues during the fill up, everything worked as it should have, and the ink started flowing right away from the fountain pen as I was writing with it. The only downside on it is that the nib is so thin that on reverse, because of the design that it has, was barely leaving a line behind, and it was very scratchy, pretty much unusable for my needs. The interesting part about this particular nib and why I choose to use this one today is that this nib seems to be actually an architect nib. Seems to be slightly thinner on the downstroke than on the side stroke. Not sure if the camera will be able to capture that. The difference is very small. You can see it with the naked eye, but I'm not sure how well the camera will capture that detail. Very interesting nib. I've never seen a nib that is an architect and be this extra fine size. And that made me very curious on what kind of scribble I could get with it today, hence I'm using this specific one. Overall, for writing, a pretty pleasant fountain pen to use. Very well balanced, posted or unposted. It has a little bit of bounce to it, enough to make it a pleasant writing experience, and it should work very well for long writing sessions if you would use it for something like that. Anyway, with the writing aside, let me dive into Scribble and see what I can produce with this nib. Today, just like last week, was another day where I did not really have any specific ideas on my head. So, another random scribble. Actually, this one might have ended up being more random than I wanted it to be. I really have no idea what I end up with. As a matter of fact, up to just midway into the scribble, I was still not sure what I was trying to accomplish. Even at the end now, well, after I'm done recording and now I'm doing the voiceover, I am still puzzled a little bit as to what it was in my head, but at least now I sort of have an idea of what it is, even though I don't know what to call it. And as I was finishing the drawing, I finally got a grip on it, and at least I try and manage to make it balanced to sort of have a pleasant finish to it, I guess. So yeah, the scribble for today, still a puzzle, and as such, I pretty much did let myself pretty loose with it. I almost give up on it at the beginning, but after a while I just said screw it and went for it without much of a care. I did end up with some sort of 3 things or beings on the page, but I have no clue what they are. For a while, up almost until the end of the drawing, the faces were also so obscured that I wasn't even sure I can pull off any kind of hints, or I wasn't sure you would be able to actually see that there might be something in there, especially since the whole thing turned out to be a little bit crowded overall. Because that, I actually decided to use a little bit of color, again, like I did last week, to help with making the faces stand out from the rest of the drawing. I didn't want to use colors that might have muddied the part, so I ended up using like bright yellow or neon yellow, which I think kind of suits and complements the burgundy color that I have on the ink. So I think I pulled it off somehow, but in the end, again, I still don't know what they are, and I don't know what to call them. All I know is that they seem to be screaming at me for a reason, probably because they are terrified of how badly I scribbled them. Not sure where to put this one. I don't think it's a win, but at the same time, maybe not a complete loss either. So maybe it's time to create a new column for meh, I guess it's okay stuff. Maybe in 10 years from now I'll see it with different eyes. And again, I did use the pencil, again, to try and create more depth and atmosphere, and use the bleeding stump again. I still don't think I like using it. I'll try and practice with it more off screen. Maybe I can find a situation where I like them better. For now, I think I will stop using them in my weekly scribbles until I either figure out how to use them better or find a situation where they work better for me. I still don't like those smudges that it does at the end. I can't find a way to transition nicely from basically the pencil to the white of the page. It's like it just abruptly breaks and it looks like a smudge. I don't like that. I still don't know what to do to make it better. If you have any tips and tricks, please let me know. Anyway, with the Scribble aside and focusing on the fountain pen for a bit, I like the fountain pen, that goes without saying, and I really like the nib for writing. I'm not sure I like this particular Architect nib for drawing. Like I said at the beginning, this gotta be the most extra fine Architect nib I have ever tried or seen. Maybe my impression on the nib was also tainted a little bit by the Scribble because I was a little bit lost in it and I was unsure with it. More practice and exploration I think is needed with this nib before I know for sure if I like using it for drawing or I will reserve it for writing only. The other thing that I need to get used to this nib for drawing is that at certain angles the nib is so thin that if you are not careful, it will start scraping the paper if you attempt to fill any areas with ink. Again, a matter of learning the tool, I guess. I can't really fault it, but something to take in consideration for the future. I noticed that if I start to lift the pen a little bit and then just glide barely above the page, barely touching it, it works without much of an issue and without scraping the paper. But that could get a little bit tiresome after a long session because now you are forcing yourself to hold it at a specific angle rather than let the pen or the weight of the pen glide on top of the page and you're just guiding it. Overall though, the fountain pen in itself worked as it should have. That was not a problem and I cannot fault the nib at all, except that the reverse was not working for me. If it would have worked, I probably would have used it more on reverse, probably. However, the fountain pen itself, it's easy to use, very comfortable in hand for drawing. After 2 hours of use, I felt no fatigue from it, and if it would have not been a matter of the time, I probably would have been still at it for a while longer. As mentioned at the beginning, I also think I have used this ink before in another fountain pen review, if, again, I remember correctly. I don't remember which one was, but my feelings for it have not changed. Still pleasant to my eyes, and even with this nib, I managed to layer the Scribble to my heart's content and getting it pretty dark in some areas. Definitely a beautiful ink for drawing with. And with that, I guess I think I'll stop it for now. I'm not sure what else to say. Still confused by the drawing. Kinda like it, kinda don't. Like I said, I'll keep it in the meh column. And yeah, I think I'll retire for now. And I'll be back next week with hopefully something more exciting than today. I wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.